admiring the quietness of the atmosphere. He knew that no matter what time of day or night that he arrived, Kelly stood cheerfully on the other side of the door awaiting him. Her consistency, which David realized he often took for granted, often made him realize that the rigors of a bad day could easily be left behind. After turning the key and pushing the door open, briefcase in one hand and a small stack of papers in the other, David was greeted at the door. "Here, let me give you a hand with that." Kelly took the case from his hand. "The way that you fumbled around with that lock tells me that you're tired and weary." Kelly, as always, was showing the generosity that David had noticed when he first met her. Now, in their 21st year of marriage, it seemed the beauty that she possessed then had also not blemished. Her radiant blue eyes, complemented by auburn hair which was cut closely to her head, and a glowing personality, were only a portion of what had attracted him. He had almost foreseen that she would be a great mother by the way she caringly volunteered her time while the two were still in college, and it was proven so now with the way the girls were being raised. Even though she had been preoccupied lately by something that kept her busy, David knew that her loyalty to marriage was unbending. "Hello, honey, you're a lifesaver as usual," David said amiably. "I know that I called and said I would be late, but I didn't realize just how late." After placing the papers on a stand that was near the door, he continued his greeting with a hug and kiss. "Why did you stay up so long waiting for me?" David inquired. "I didn't have anything to do after seeing the kids off to bed. I was sitting here enjoying a new book that I've started." Kelly took his jacket and while walking to another room used a slightly elevated voice. "Are Mildred and the family any better?" "Yes, everything finally quieted. When I arrived, there were several somber faces and that didn't change, but Andrew and I managed to get the crying stopped and everybody calm." Kelly, in an empathetic voice, said delicately, "I can only imagine how Mildred feels right now. I would be devastated if I lost you." She pondered for a second and then shifted the tone and the subject. "You know, Ashley was kind of disappointed when you didn't make it to her piano performance this afternoon. She was really looking forward to playing for you a new piece that she has been practicing. I tried to explain that you were consoling saddened friends, but you know how kids are." She returned, looked warmly at him and said, "Try to make it up to her somehow." David spoke apologetically, "I'm sorry, darling, and I'll speak with her the first thing in the morning." Having now walked upstairs and gone to the bedroom, David pulled off his suit, showered and put on his favorite cloth pajama pants and a loose-fitting t-shirt. Fully dressed now, he walked through the hallway, peeked in on the girls, and then walked back down the spiral staircase and into the kitchen. He said with a smile, "Something smells delicious. What is it?" "Wait, let me guess." He then flapped his hands over the pan top towards his nose. "Minestrone made with your world-famous homemade tomato sauce." Kelly grinned and looked at him. "You're not even close." "How about your second favorite dish?" she asked. As she pulled the top from the saucepan and the moisture from the steam trickled upwards, she continued, "Veal with a chasseur sauce, carrots, and asparagus. I kept it warm for you." David gave a warm smile. "And why is it you always know what I like better yet? How is it that you know exactly what I'm craving for? I've been married to you long enough to know what you're thinking. Go into the dining room, sit down, and get comfortable." "I'll bring a plate to you." David did so as ordered. Entering the dining room after preparing the meal, Kelly presented a well-portioned plate to him and placed on the table a small serving that she had prepared for herself so that he would not have to eat alone. Even though he missed many of the family meals together, she somehow reasoned that it was always proper to make David and the kids feel they were always in a family setting when having their dinner. David, in between placing food into his mouth, said, "So tell me, how did Beethoven perform today?" Kelly, with the show of a mother's pride, answered, "Ashley was absolutely fabulous. She looked up at me while playing and gave me a grin." Kelly paused, smiled, and went on, "I think everyone in the audience thought the smile was for them, and David, I absolutely melted. It was as if everything was moving in slow motion." She continued, "I was kinda scared that she would lose her rhythm and skip a key, but she didn't miss a beat." David, with now a hint of excitement in his voice about the event, said, "Please tell me that you video recorded it." Kelly responded dejectedly, "Oh, honey, I'm sorry, I sure didn't." "Oh, well," he said without hesitation. "I guess now I have to be present at the next one because I'm not going to let you guys steal all of my memories. By the way, when is the next performance?" Kelly walked over to the refrigerator and looked at a calendar that Ashley had so meticulously updated and found that the next recital was going to be held in 3 weeks and 2 days. As she gave the date to David, he confirmed that nothing was going to keep him from it. After complimenting her on the excellence of the dinner, the two sat and talked for another 35 minutes before retreating to bed. As the two settled into bed with a large satin comforter covering them, Kelly slid her arms beneath the sheath and began softly squeezing and rubbing David's back, suggesting she was in a flirtatious mood. David, not noticing her frame of mind, responded, "Oh, that feels great." He sighed and then said, "You're going to put me to sleep if you keep that up." Now leaning on an elbow, glancing over his shoulder and into his face, Kelly saw the tiredness but still prodded, "Be careful what you say. I might completely turn it around and dub it a love call." With the exhaustion from the 4:30 awakening and the long day, David could only offer a dismal smile. And with that lack of a satisfactory response, she took it as a sign that there is always tomorrow, and off to sleep they both went. In their kitchen the next morning, all members of the family were sitting around the breakfast table: Ashley, Michelle, Kelly, and David. Michelle, in her youthful way, smiled and said, "Daddy, we missed you last night. Mom took us to Ashley's piano concerto recital, and I saw a boy from my school there." As she continued without appearing to take a breath, his name was Reginald. David, with a mild level of exuberance, replied, "Concerto recital, I'm impressed. It looks like someone around here has learned a few new words." As he reached for the butter, which was now being handed to him by Michelle, who anticipated the need, David smiled and asked, "How did you enjoy it?" Michelle looked over at Kelly and then back to David. "Daddy, she was brilliant." Mommy started crying. She said that she was touched by how pretty it sounded. David, cutting his eyes over to Kelly and giving a grin, then redirected his response towards Michelle. "Well, Mommy didn't quite tell me how explosive the performance was." Kelly, who saw the look from him, blushed but did not respond. He followed, "Your mother said that it was nice, but your description makes it sound as if it was more majestic than I originally thought." Turning his head this time towards Ashley, David gave a continued smile. "Dear, I'm proud of you. It sounds as if you brought the house down." Placing his hand on top of hers and squeezing to show his emotion, David said, "Look, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to make it last night." Ashley raised her brow and said, "That's okay, Daddy. Mom's explained it to me already." David cut in before she could say any more. "Hear me out. I really am sorry. I tried to promise your mother and myself that I would always be there during those special moments in your and your sister's life, and last night, I feel that I failed you all." Winking at her, he then said, "I've been thinking of ways to make it up to you, and guess what's come to mind?" Ashley, now bubbling with excitement, asked, "Are you going to let me go to the movies on a weeknight?" "No, but you're close," David replied. "I was thinking of giving you that nice electronics game you've been talking about. How does that sound?" Ashley, now filled with high spirits, yelled out, "Oh, Daddy, you mean the Spectacular 5? I can't believe it," David jokingly commented. "You know, we're probably going to have to sell the house to afford that gizmo, right?" Ashley tried to put David at ease. "Believe it or not, Daddy, they've got them on sale at the department store this weekend." Michelle cut in, "I want one, Daddy. Can I have one too?" His expression unchanged, David answered, "Well, Michelle, maybe if you're nice to your sister, she may let you borrow hers." Ashley looked at Michelle and stuck out her tongue. Michelle responded by putting her thumb to her nose and twiddling her other 4 fingers. Ashley, now turning her attention to David, said, "Daddy, I can name all of the American presidents." After beginning her review of the nameless pictures printed from an internet encyclopedia, she stopped on one in particular and added, "John Adams was the 2nd president, and his son John Quincy Adams was the 6th. A lot of kids wonder how they came so close together." "You've got me now wondering why were they elected so closely?" David asked. Ashley went on to tell the story, followed by several more historical facts about presidents. She ended by naming Woodrow Wilson as her favorite president of all time. David said with a faint humorous tone. Wow, you know more about the presidents than probably 98% of Americans, including myself. I feel like I just received a crash course in civics. Michelle countered, what civics, Daddy? David turned his attention to the younger girl. It's the study of our history, politics, and our government, honey. Michelle, in a childlike way to keep from feeling excluded, spoke up. I know civics, Daddy. Each city has a mayor, each state has a governor, and there's a legislature that writes laws for everyone to help keep this country safe. That's correct, darling. Why is it that I feel I'm the only one around here not abreast of all this good information? Baiting them in with his humor, David added, I think I need to go back to school. Do you think they'll let me enroll in Idlywilda Elementary? Ashley jumped back into the conversation. Oh, quit kidding, Daddy. You can be in my class if they let you attend, Michelle said with seriousness. We can play on the playground together and… Before she could finish, Kelly interrupted her. Michelle, your daddy's only joshing you. Realizing it was now time for the kids to leave for school, Kelly stopped the exchange. Okay, girls, grab your books. It's time to go. Michelle energetically snapped away from the table and kissed David on the jaw, saying her goodbyes as she ran to gather her books. Ashley, who was never too enthusiastic about school, slowly pushed her chair back. Giving an additional indication that she wanted to stay longer, she stood slowly, raised her glass, and finished the orange juice she had been drinking. Afterwards, she unhurriedly walked over to David, pressed her cheek against his, and then turned to Kelly, brushed her hair back with her fingers, and gave a long hug. After that, she draggedly walked towards the door where her book bag awaited her. David, from his chair, turned towards the kids as they were leaving and said, I'll see you guys this evening. Be careful, and Ashley, keep an eye on your little sister. It was now Kelly and David at the table. Kelly was having a cup of coffee while David finished his breakfast. As he paused and began to stare at her, she saw the look and shyly said, What? David, looking at her now tranquilly, echoed his feelings. Sometimes I feel like the luckiest man on earth. Playing along with him, Kelly responded, And why do you say that, sir? David, now taking on a more serious tone, replied, I look around and see how organized you have our family life. The love I feel from you and the kids, how beautiful you are, and just life in general, it's enough to make a man feel a sense of appreciation. Kelly, having no luck suppressing a smile, said, You sure know how to say the right things. That was special, my love. You almost brought tears to my eyes. Sorry about making you tear up, David said, but that's just how I feel complete. The two sat and talked for another few minutes. While they spoke, Kelly was skimming through the newspaper reading the daily news when, to her astonishment, she noticed an article entitled, Sebastian Rowe Bombing Suspects Identified. As she began to read the story, she was shocked to see the detail of what was printed. Good heavens! Look at what's in the news. A group has written a letter to the newspaper taking ownership of the bombing at Sebastian Rowe. David quickly went from his relaxed state of mind to full alertness. Do you mind if I see that? He urgently asked. As David read the story, he was stunned to find that a group calling itself the Oil City Regulators had laid out particulars of the bombing at the Sebastian Rowe refinery, followed by justifying statements that the faction was frustrated with big business price gouging the common man. They also had demands that SCP was to